Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Sporting Max. For today, we're joined by NBL Pro Cam Rigby. Welcome to the podcast, Cam. It's a great honour to have you on. How you going?
Going okay, Max. Thanks heaps for having me, mate.
Thanks, Cam. Now, I'd like to start off with sort of what was growing up like for you, and what was a young Cam Rigby like?
There was no COVID, which was fun. There was lots of outdoors activities, playing footy, playing basketball, riding bikes, climbing trees, going fishing with my brothers.
Yep.
Not a great deal. Pretty average sort of childhood, actually, mate.
Mm-hmm. So where did you grow up?
Out in Diamond Valley, the raging metropolis of Diamond Creek, which was a country town 100 years ago, and now is a little suburb, but yeah, way out in the northeast.
So when did you start to sort of get involved in sport, or start to take an interest, or really know that you wanted to be a pro at basketball?
Oh, well, loved it from a real young age. Started playing with my brother and my cousins, 9 or 10 years old. Lots of basketball, a little bit of footy. Then got pretty serious, sort of under 14s, under 16s. And then basketball took over. Had to make a choice. So I went indoors in the warm weather and stayed away from the cold. Probably under 14s, under 16s was when things got real serious. I had no idea what the end was going to look like, but knew I loved it and wanted to play it all the time.
Can you expand on how you got to the NBL and attracted attention from the club where your NBL career all kicked off with the Canberra Cannons?
Long and interesting story was Diamond Valley Junior till under 18s, and then a couple of years of high school in the States, year 11 and year 12, then a division scholarship at a couple of universities, then graduated, came home, and got a call from a friend of mine who was sort of my agent at the time, and said, what are you doing on Wednesday? And I told him that I had plans to run some coaching clinics, and he said, no, you're not, you're flying to Canberra to try out. And I flew up to Canberra and played one-on-one with CJ Bruton for a couple of hours, and then played some two-on-two with Brad Williams and one of our assistant coaches, Lloyd. And had dinner with the rest of the team, or some of the team that were in town at the time, and the rest is history.
Now, debut for Canberra, 20 points and an astonishing 15 boards. What was your first game like through your eyes?
Pretty nervous, pretty exciting. It felt really similar to some of the college games I played. But still, super excited to be a full-time professional back home. Big opening night crowd in Wollongong. The team I'd seen on TV, previous champions of the league, with most of their team returning, and treated it just like another big college game, and went out and had a crack, and it turned out we ended up losing the game, but the opening night stats were okay.
Now, so what was the sort of gameplay like? Was that game like a fast sort of game, or how do you adjust in your first game of NBL?
It was similar sort of tempo to college. Real good athletes, really smart, high IQ. As you get up in levels in basketball, everything happens a whole lot quicker. Decisions are a whole lot quicker, and athletes are a whole lot quicker. But there's a degree of sort of old man smarts that come into it. College is fast paced all the time, but in the NBL, there's some veterans that we played against, like Matt Campbell, Glenn Saddle, those sorts of dudes that know when to speed up and when to slow down. It was awesome. We had an import that got hurt, unfortunately, in that game, so I probably played more minutes than I probably should have. Fond memories of everything, but the injury we had and the end result.
Finishing third in the NBL Rookie of the Year award in 2000. How did you find the experience of your first season in the league?
Absolutely loved it. It was literally the pinnacle of a kid's dream of playing basketball as a job. It was. I'd finally made it. The end result didn't go the way I'd liked. We were a young group that just figuring out how to play and how to win. But absolutely loved it. It was full on. It was intense, but it was very similar to the college experience that I'd had, just without all the schoolwork, which was nice.
Now, in 2002, I believe you played with the Magic Johnson All-Stars with the Canberra Cannons, and I saw a little clip there where Magic gives you a dime at the 3 and you just knock it down in the left corner. What was that game all about, and what was it like to take the court with the great Magic Johnson?
Well, first of all, it was absolutely unbelievable. If I wasn't there to experience it, I still don't believe that it actually happened. We had a couple of former Michigan State graduates on our team as imports, Dave Thomas and Mike Chappelle. And their agent was still heavily involved with the Michigan State program. And at the time, every year, former Michigan State players and their professional team would come back, play an exhibition game with the current team they're ready for the season. And we got the phone call that having a couple of Spartans was our ticket to be invited. And a few of us didn't really believe it. It sounded too good to be true. And I remember talking to CJ about it, and he's like, "No, trust me, it's going to happen. It's going to happen." Like, I'll believe it when the tickets are in our hands. And surely, we got to training one day, and all the itineraries were all printed out, and we're like, "Holy crap, this is actually going to happen!" And then we flew over, trained for a week. Magic showed up on the Friday to shoot around and learn some of our plays, and absolutely blew our mind that this was actually going to happen. And we sat and chatted for a little while, told some stories, and took some photos, and he literally wanted to fit in as part of the group and learned our stuff pretty quick. And when we played in front of probably a third or a half filled stadium, it still was great. The student section was packed, and it was college flashbacks for me, and a bit of an introduction to some of our guys that hadn't played in college. But absolutely phenomenal. He's super skilled, really high IQ, great guy to play with, and a personality, and it was just amazing. So the game itself was awesome. DT and Mike played out of their skins in front of their old home crowd, and we ended up beating a pretty powerful Michigan State team by about 20 that night, and celebrated into the early morning afterwards.
Now you came into the new team in the NBL, the Hunter Pirates, in 2003. Can you elaborate on what intrigued you or made you want to go to the Pirates?
It was a tough point in the league where there wasn't a whole lot of money around. It wasn't as well run and publicized as it is now. So there weren't a whole lot of opportunities for those of us sort of in the middle of the road. There was enough sort of contracts around for the big stars, and enough opportunities for some young kids, but those of us who were decent players coming off the bench, there wasn't a whole lot of room for, so there wasn't a whole lot of opportunities. And I got a call from Bruce Palmer, fantastic coach, one of my favorites, who was putting together the Pirates program, and he wanted me to come up, and I had a chance to stay in the league. Once the Cannons folded, we sort of had to scramble and find new jobs. Went up there for a little while. Things didn't go according to plan up there, but great experience to get to know Bruce a little bit more, and some of the guys on the team. It was a chance to stay in the league and get back in and play.
So what happened there when you sort of left the Pirates?
Got hurt at training. Got injured, and it was a really strange injury that got misdiagnosed for a couple of weeks, and I couldn't train and I couldn't play, and the doctors couldn't figure out why. And then I'll be as politically correct as I can. Management at the time, because we were young and losing a lot, the management told me that they had to be seen to be making moves. And because I was injured and hurt, I would be the first player to be cut.
Oh, no.
So it was disappointing, and it got pretty messy behind closed doors, but it turned out okay. I came back to Melbourne, and within 5 minutes of talking to Dr. David Young, found out what the issue was, and it was a little bit of issue with the lining of my hip joint. And about an hour or so on the operating table that Saturday morning, and I was back running and jogging and playing pre-season in about 6 or 8 weeks.
Wow.
And then went on to have a good pre-season and ended up playing at Dandenong following that, and having no troubles with the hip ever since. So it was a little bit messy, but turned out okay.
You mentioned playing for the Dandenong Rangers. Now you won the Eastern Conference championship with them in the Siebel in 2004. Now you put together a performance that got you grand final MVP, and then the year later playing for Mildura, you once again earn that award. What are some of your memories of these two games? A couple of games.
Well, the Dandenong group was almost an NBL team. We had myself, Darren Smith, Nick Mirich, Andrew Murdoch, Adam Quick, Chris Smith was our import. So we had guys with NBL experience, and we were a pretty big group. And once we figured out how to all work together, we had a pretty impressive season and won that game against Nunawading pretty comfortably. It was at our home court, and the crowd was great, and I remember that much. The frustrating part about the following year was the way the Mildura game ended. We ended up losing that championship game. It was not as talented a team, but we worked really, really hard, and we figured ourselves out sort of midway through the year and won 8 or 9 games in a row to get us into the finals and chipped away at some finals. And I was back and forth from West Sydney to those Seabull finals. And it came down to the wire, and we missed a shot on the buzzer to steal one at Geelong. It would have been a good one to get, but it was an awesome game.
You then went on to join the Wollongong, now Illawarra Hawks. How did that move from the Cannons to the Hawks all sort of come about?
Had a good couple of Seabull seasons and proved that I was healthy again after the whole Hunter injury thing. And Brendan Joyce got in touch and was putting together a roster in Wollongong to back up the guys I mentioned before, Matt Campbell, Glenn Saville, Darnell Mee, Adam Ballinger, who funnily enough was on that Michigan State team we played. So when Ballinger came out, I sort of knew him a little bit. And they were putting together a pretty good group and wanted some support off the bench, and it was a good chance to prove I was healthy again and get back in the league. And we had a fantastic year and pushed all the way to the NBL finals and didn't quite get there. We got our butts kicked pretty well by a really talented Sydney team that lost their mind and shot about 60% from 3 for 3 games and smacked us pretty good. But no, it was awesome time living by the beach and getting to play with those guys every day. And Wollongong's a fantastic place to live. But yeah, that year was awesome.
Now that final series against Sydney, how does it feel when you get so close to holding that championship trophy, but just can't get it done against such a great Kings side?
Really emotional at the time because everything you've done through years of build-up, big pre-season, and the long, grueling season, getting to that point where you've got a chance to win it. Everything we tried went wrong, and everything they shot up went in. I think Jay Smith averaged 35 or 38 or something stupid like that. And our starters just had 3, poor shooting games. Everything we tried, that they were the right shots to take, but we just couldn't make one. And momentum kept going, and they were coached by Gorgian, who's a fantastic coach, and they kept the momentum going and smacked us pretty well 3 straight. But looking back on it, once the emotion died down, it's an awesome memory to have right up until the point where we got our butts kicked.
Now I see you claim the Hawks Most Improved Team Award in 2005. What did that mean to you to see that you're being recognised for putting in the hard work and effort into your game?
Yeah, that was awesome. We had some individual sort of awards through the year, and it was great for me because I knew that my hip was fine and I belonged back in the league and I was healthy again, and all the work I put in to get back was being recognised, which was awesome. And we were succeeding as a team, so that there's always little individual accolades that come along with that. One of my fondest memories was being a part of that group, how hard they worked, learned a lot from our strength coach, Dave Boyle, who was one of the inspirations in the career that I've taken ever since. Lots of awesome memories coming out of that team.
Now after a season at Wollongong, you were headed to the West Sydney Razorbacks. How did that opportunity, present itself?
Personally, I had a pretty good series in that final series against Sydney, and I guess they figured if he can play well against their rivals, let's give him a job and see what he can do. I had a chat about that to Mark Watkins, the coach, and he was pretty keen on what he had seen in that final series, and the plan was to have a pretty decent role in what on paper was going to be a pretty good Razorbacks team. But a mixture of injuries and people leaving for Europe and things like that the team we put on the floor at West Sydney wasn't anything like it was supposed to be. But a hard-fought couple of years up there and made some really good mates and had some good times. Didn't win a whole lot of games, but we created a lot of stories coming out of that and made a lot of good friendships, I suppose.
So how do you reflect on your time at the Razorbacks?
Loved a lot of it, hated some of it, and everything in between. It was hard work. It was messy behind the scenes because it was another team in that weird financial era that eventually folded. And it's weird to say 3 out of the 4 teams I played for no longer exist, and it wasn't my fault. It wasn't because they were paying me too much. I wish it was, but yeah, it was a lot of great mates that have come out of that and a lot of great stories, but some really messy stuff off the court and behind the scenes. But, it can't be helped now. So we worry about, the mates that I've made and the stories that we've got. So every time we get together, we reminisce on the good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now, throughout 2007, 2008, you spent a year back at Wollongong. Why did you decide to return?
Loved living down there. Loved a lot of the guys that were still part of the group. And after the sort of the messy end that things had at West Sydney, it was great to get an opportunity to go back to somewhere that was familiar and that we had some success.
Yeah.
So I guess I wanted to get rid of the bad memories of West Sydney and go to somewhere that I had some success and was familiar with.
Now I believe in 2007 you won a championship with Bendigo, right?
Yep.
Now, what was that championship experience like for you, and was it different to the experience you had with the Dandenong Rangers?
Yeah, it was a little different, being in a country town. One of the many things I loved about the times I spent in both Ballarat, Bendigo, Mildura, Hobart, were being from smaller towns. There's a bigger crowd interaction. It's more of an event. Whereas the suburban teams, as great as they are, the suburban teams sort of lost in the Melbourne shuffle. But yeah, Bendigo Braves basketball, when it's successful, when it's going well, is an event. So it was almost like playing in a smaller version of the NBL. It was awesome. Great country town guys that I got to know that I'm still really good friends with now. Spent some time with a couple of weeks ago at a friend's birthday. Was awesome. Living in a country town and experiencing that again was great fun.
Now, throughout your time in the Seaboard, you've played for clubs like Ballarat, Hobart, and Bendigo. Do you notice a difference between the style of play between a league, say like the NBL and then the NBL 1?
Yeah, it's a little bit of sort of size and speed. Guys are not quite as big. Guys aren't quite as fast. Decisions are a split second slower. It's like stepping up in any league, sort of an age group of 14s to 16s, 16s to 18s. Everything's that little bit faster and more athletic and quicker. So there's a little bit of that, and every coach is different as well. Philosophies are different. Every group of players provides a different sort of dynamic. So overall, it'd be size and speed, but then individually, it's team by team, coach by coach.
Now, post basketball, you've had multiple roles, sort of in coaching, mentoring, and athlete development. What do you like most, or enjoy most about these roles?
Giving young athletes the chance to experience stuff I did. I remember what it was like to make these changes and figure out what it was like to achieve goals and work for them and want to provide that sort of opportunity for all of them and hopefully provide as many pathway chances as I possibly can.
Now, you're the head coach, founder and director of Prime Athletes. What is Prime Athletes' sort of main focus, and what's it all about?
Teaching young athletes how to move and how to lift weights, primarily basketball. That's what I know the best. So I've been involved in a couple of different associations, setting up programs for them, but mainly teaching as many young athletes as I can how the body's supposed to work. With more young athletes than ever trying to play elite level sport, but also sitting in front of computer screens more than ever. Trying to bridge that gap of teaching them how things work and how to get better and how handle the workload of elite sport a little better.
So, as a former professional basketballer, what's your aim when developing these young kids' skill sets and sort of getting them in the weight room?
To create good habits.
Mm-hmm.
Two things that I want to give all of the athletes that we work with is really good mechanical habits, as in,
Mm-hmm.
run well, jump well, land well, change direction well.
Yeah.
And then behavioral habits on top of that. Every
Mm-hmm.
time they train, be it on court or in the gym, do some good quality preparation, work real hard, do some recovery, and get ready to do it again. So that the motto that we operate by is prepare, work, recover, repeat. And if you can get into the behavioral habit of doing that all the time,
Yeah.
habits are much more powerful than motivation, because everyone's motivation sort of comes and goes. We have good days and bad days, but if you build good habits, you do the right stuff all the time, regardless.
Do you have like sort of a current favorite NBL team to watch?
Not really a current favorite NBL team. I like watching good close games.
Yeah.
I've got a few former teammates and coaches that are affiliated, so I hope they do well. But I just want to watch good games.
Mm-hmm. So what would be your best advice to anyone who wants to become a successful and elite basketballer like yourself and play at a high level of play in the NBL?
I don't know about an elite basketballer like myself. There was much more than me. I was pretty happy with the career that I managed to get out of this unathletic sort of body. Just the cool thing about success is it's been done before. They don't have to create anything new. Just find people that have done what they want to do and learn how to do it, because the roadmap already exists. It's just a matter of learning about it and a willingness to do it. That's the big thing. A lot of young athletes want to be great, but not too many that I've seen so far have a willingness to become great and the steps along the way. They want to jump all the way to doing, a triple between the legs, double back, double step back, fade away before they learn how to dribble with their offhand.
Yeah.
Like you can't skip step one and try and imagine jumping to step 10. So learn what it takes and then get ready to do it all the time. If you hate repetition, then you're not going to get good at anything.
Thanks, Cam, for coming on the podcast today and putting aside half an hour or so of your time to come in and have a chat. It's been an honour.
Nah, no worries, Max. The honour is mine, mate. Keep killing it.
Thanks, Cam. Stay tuned, everyone, for some more Sporting Max.